right, good morning. This is a player recap of last night's Dragonslayer Session 2, Bone Hill. Secrets of Bone Hill? Is that what it's called? I don't know, but we're calling it Bone Hill campaigns. So this was my first session. I missed the debut. Welcome to Rest and Forward. You can see that AP here on the channel, and I think Dell might have done a recap to that as well. So again, I've been away for a while dealing with all kinds of things. So it was great to get back to the table last night. I am playing I generated a character for these sessions in our last video. Again, that's on the channel here. Dragonslayer OSR is our game of choice with these of late, as Eloy has been our MC through all of our Dragonslayer sessions, which has been fantastic. He explains early in that our AP video of why we chose to make the change to Bone Hill, not so much to get away from Barrel Maze, as I'm sure we will return to it, but a change of pace in really setting and themes, right? And this is one of the things about the old D20. The game doesn't change a lot, but a few subtle things change how a game feels, which is why OSRs are popular. Because if I write an OSR and I take out uh, uh, distributing treasure liberally, and I take out distributing magic items or even magic items from my homebrew tweaks, it changes the feel, the nature of the D20 fantasy game. And so just going to Bonehill and Greyhawk uh, and changing kind of that, just the nature of that environment, not even in the rules, but just in these environments, it makes it a different. And this features a more broad fantasy Greyhawk fantasy. So there's going to be orcs and half elves, et cetera, et cetera. And at least we're embracing that. So it feels different. And I can say as a player, again, as I play in the Joth campaigns with OSE for years now with Todd, how that feels, um, and how Barrel Maze felt was again, although the 2D20 fantasy, pass fail dice mechanic, um, both similar game eras of the D20 type game. They are a completely different feel, right? And it's not just the people at the table, because many of us share the same game. It's the themes, it's the sense of and Barrel Maze really does. Um, I guess you might say this is more of a player reflections, as I've started with reflections, but oh well. For those who are curious, Barrel Maze is claustrophobic. I mean, you really do feel like that's where you're at. And yes, you can travel for a few cities here and there. You can stay up top, but Barrel Maze has this real oppressive feel. It's kind of it's amazing how that works, and that's a good thing, right? You can imagine us in a fogged in, part of the world with a low ceiling, and everything is dark, and you're just you're going to and from and trying to survive, and it's just something about it. It feels very Eloy captures it. And the game, I think the actual Barrel Maze puts the MC in that frame of mind, in that box, so that that's conveyed to us through our options. Although we've done a lot of above ground exploration, Barrel Maze has a definite feel. It's amazing, and it is translated by how Eloy is presenting the material, and how the material, I'm sure, is presented to Eloy. And that's a testimony to the writing. It's a testament to uh, Greg Gillespie narrowing that subject matter, so to speak. And it has a very, say claustrophobic, very, I can't explain it. It just it's fantastic. Um, and that's to get those themes and get that feel across. That's something, right? That's something. And just instantly, it's only my first session with the guys last night. Same game, Dragon Slayer, right? We've only excluded a couple of classes from these sessions, like Cyclops. You can't play Cyclops, something like that. But the game hasn't changed. But Bone Hill and how, and already just the nature of this, and I just from the map that he showed, and the fact that it's a city with a palisade wall around it, the fact that we're in a cavern looking for giant rats, and basically an underground cavern. And I don't know why, but despite the fact that we were underground, and it just has a different feel. The themes are different, and the fact that he mentioned the orcs, and he talked about, it's like, okay, this instantly is a different style of fantasy, and it invokes something in me. And a lot of people say, they're all fantasy, all the same old stuff, or whatever. I guess you have to have an affinity for this to, it's like just a little bit more salt makes it, but too much salt, a little bit of cumin makes this, gives this a special flavor, right? That it's just the right spices, even if it's just in what Eloy says to us, even if it's just in the nature of orcs, the existence of orcs, and them being a dangerous enemy, it changes the fantasy. Yeah. And it means something to me, and it's fascinating how that's again, we're all older, mature veterans, and it puts my mind in the right space, puts me in the right headspace. And of course, I'm coming to this with a completely different character. Uh, Jonathan Bulwark is a professional soldier. He is barely can read and write. Um, and he has survived solely by his moxie, so to speak. So he doesn't truck much BS, and a man of the world, so to speak. So it's just been so instantly enjoying playing Jonathan Bulwark, who's not polite, who's not gentle. There is no gentleman in Jonathan Bulwer, and he is he's not the one you're going to want talking to the commander of the guard. He's not the one that's. So anyway, I'm already finding out who Jonathan Bulwer is. It's great fun, right? Okay. So recap. Well, they apparently in the first session, uh, it's recapped in the AP, but ultimately, this session leads to us following up an investigation from a child who'd been bitten by a rat and was diseased. And our druid, David's character, Atar, I believe, and another local druid helped save the child. And then we set off to investigate where this old ruin, like a burned out building or something. And then the session picks up with us having found that entrance to those caverns and into it. And so, as you can imagine, we got to go through and exterminate the rats. Right now, we're rat exterminators, giant disease rats, but that's what we're doing nonetheless. And it's glorious beginnings of old school, right? I mean, how many video games begin? How many debut modules? What a great introduction to your kids or your grandkids at their first thing is to go kill the rats in the cellars, right? It's a glorious way to it's a universal experience that everybody should get in their first sessions, right? Especially this kind of fantasy. So it's great fun. And anyway, yeah, so we battle the rats, we exterminate the rats, and on the way out, investigating the final door of these caverns, what we discovered were there's a smuggler's hole, right? We follow them out to the water line, and it emerges underneath a dock, and on the marked on the wood post that holds the dock up is a smuggler's mark that lets people know this is the smuggler's hole. And I defaced it, and we returned back to finish up this area. Sure enough, we are on the final. We're headed toward the final doorway, which we had left unchecked. And through that door, something came through that door before we got there, and we ended up encountering ghouls, which was amazing. My character was immediately paralyzed and had to stand firm and hope my friends and peers and colleagues could bring these ghouls down. And fortunately, they did. So a great session, absolute great session. And the ghouls coming through that door, Mike, at the end, my character says, what the hell, where are these ghouls at and where are they coming from? And that kind of is the end of the session, right? So we now got to find out where ghouls, what was on the other side of that door that ghouls were coming through it. So that's a fascinating threat, I think. We also found another exit from the smuggler's hole that comes out on the outside wall of the palisades among the bushes. And this is a major problem because this means smugglers are coming in along the river and they're able to store their stuff and come out the palisade walls. But that means they can also get into the palisade city through this same thing, or worse, as Gavin points out, orcs could use this to infiltrate the palisade. So we've got to tell the captain of the guard about it. Fantastic. Um, I know of Greyhawk. I've been exposed enough through 50 years of a little bit that I know a little bit about Greyhawk here and there. But again, when I tell people that I purchased TSR's books and I purchased TSR and I used basic Moldvay almost exclusively as a kid, we bastardized and cannibalized some rules and classes from AD&D, but I never ran AD&D. I would use rules and I would allow them to make an assassin or something if they wanted to. And I would use the monster manuals from AD&D, the Fiend Folio. So I'd cannibalize and I'd bastardize all of that as I GM'd. And again, I never used other people's written material. I might use the maps and I might start them out following like a module. Like we might do the first few rooms or so, and I'd get tired of trying to read the blocks and hide the secrets. And so ultimately I would start making my own because I was more efficient. The point is, I know very little about Greyhawk, and it doesn't bother me that I'm not at of all the years that I enjoyed D&D as a tabletop game. I was never greatly influenced by the written material, the literature, the paperback books. I've read one D&D paperback book in my entire life because I don't read. The only fantasy I really ever read was Conan, and of course Tolkien, right? I wasn't a big fantasy reader outside of the masterworks, so to speak, in my opinion. So, and there are plenty of masterworks I know, but I don't care. It just wasn't what I did, right? Um, Conan gave me what I wanted, and Tolkien gave me what I wanted in fantasy, and D&D could be whatever we wanted it to be. And so I get the feeling Greyhawk, much of the feel that's in it's in the books, the rule books, obviously is probably a lot of Greyhawk bleeds into those books. Not a lot, but a little nuances in the D&D manuals probably bleeds through from Gary and his idea of the world of Greyhawk, I think. But so I might know Greyhawk solely through the uh, just the rule books maybe, but I could be completely wrong. All I know is I don't need to know Greyhawk to understand this fantasy and to get these themes and to get this feel. And it's marvelous. And it is a completely different experience. Um, again, showing the game itself has little to do. The engine itself has little to do with how we can present as a GM or an MC, how we can present material and provide a different headspace for the players, for the characters. And that's again, it's another nice experience. Although I know this was just last night. This was obvious, right? I would have thought it might take me a few, especially when it's the exact same group of guys, right? I thought, okay, it's going to still feel like Barrel Maze. We're just going to be pursuing different things, but it didn't. And what that was most remarkable is that tells me how thorough and how drilled in Barrel Maze is on its themes and its ideas. Again, and if you like that, which I do, but we were enjoying it, so we didn't take a break from Barrel Maze because we weren't enjoying it. But wow, effective. And again, Eloy using that material clearly is achieving that. So, all right, everybody out there, love what you do what you love, and I hope everybody out there has a great week. Bye bye.